Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered if your overall happiness is a gift from your genes, or just the sum total of all the good things happening in your life? This new study dives deep into that question. Today we're exploring whether life satisfaction is built from the top down, like a personal sunshine filter, or from the bottom up, like adding up happy moments in different parts of your life. So imagine your life satisfaction is like a big house. One idea, the top-down model, says there is a general feeling of happiness, like a sunny disposition, that makes every room in the house feel good. This feeling comes from within you, maybe even from your genes. The other idea, the bottom-up model, says that each room in the house has to be satisfying on its own, like a happy job, a good friendship, a nice home. And when you add them all up, you get your overall life satisfaction. It is like building the house brick by brick, with each brick being a satisfying part of your life. The top-down model suggests that if you are generally a happy person, you'll likely be happy with your job, your family, your health, and everything else. It's like having a general happy lens you look through. Scientists have found that things like your personality can really influence this. For example, if you are naturally more outgoing or optimistic, you might just tend to feel more satisfied with life overall. And this positive outlook spills over into how you see your job, your relationships, and your health. In fact, studies suggest about 40% of why people differ in life satisfaction might be due to their genes. The bottom-up model, on the other hand, says it's more about the specific things in your life. If your job is great, your friends are awesome, and your family life is good, then your overall life satisfaction will be high. Changes in these specific areas, like losing your job or having a great vacation, directly impact your overall feeling. This model suggests that you are like a calculator, adding up the scores from each part of your life. Research backs this up too, showing that when people list what makes them happy, the satisfaction from different areas like relationships, work, and finances actually adds up to explain a good chunk of their overall life satisfaction. Now, the really interesting part is that these two ideas aren't necessarily fighting against each other. Many scientists think both can be true at the same time. It is like saying you might have a sunny disposition top down, but you also feel extra happy when you have a great day at work or with friends bottom up. The challenge is figuring out how much each of these processes plays a role. To really dig into this, a team of researchers used a super cool method involving twins and their siblings. Think about it. Identical twins share almost all their genes, while non-identical twins or siblings share about half. By comparing how similar twins are to each other, scientists can get a really good idea of how much genetics plays a part in something, and how much is due to the environment or shared experiences. They looked at over 6,000 people, asking them about their life satisfaction overall, and then about their satisfaction with specific areas like friendships, family, jobs, finances, and health. They used 4 main ways to analyze the data. First, they looked at simple connections or correlations between feelings about different life areas and overall happiness. Imagine drawing lines between all these feelings and seeing which ones are strongest. Second, they used those twin and sibling comparisons to see if genetic factors or shared family environments were making people similar in their satisfaction levels across different areas. Third, they specifically looked at how domain satisfaction and general life satisfaction were linked, again using the twin data. And finally, they did something called intra-pair difference score analysis, which is a fancy way of checking if changes in one person's life satisfaction might actually cause changes in another's, especially when you account for shared genes. Their main goal was to see where life satisfaction comes from, using these powerful genetically informative designs. So, what did they find? Well, first, in terms of just how people felt, they tended to be happiest with their friendships and family, and least happy with their finances and jobs. Health satisfaction was somewhere in the middle. Generally, though, people reported being pretty satisfied across the board. When they looked at the connections, they saw that overall life satisfaction was indeed linked to satisfaction in all these different areas, with those connections being a bit stronger than the connections between the areas themselves. This hints at that top-down influence. But here is where it gets really interesting. When they took out the effect of general life satisfaction, the connections between the different life domains, like job and family satisfaction, got weaker, dropping by about half on average. This means a good chunk of why people feel similar satisfaction in, say, their job and their family life is because they have a general tendency to be satisfied or dissatisfied with life overall. That is strong evidence for that top-down effect. However, it wasn't all top-down. When they looked at whether satisfaction in specific domains could also predict overall life satisfaction, even after accounting for the general tendency, they found it still did. For example, satisfaction with friendships, family, and job satisfaction added significantly to predicting how happy people were with their lives overall, even after considering their general disposition. This is where the bottom up part comes in. The specific parts of your life still matter and contribute to your overall happiness. Now, let's bring in the twins. When they analyzed the data from twins and siblings, they found that while there were some shared genetic and environmental influences, making people's satisfaction levels similar across different life areas, the best way to describe how satisfaction in different domains worked was through a correlated factors model. This model suggests that each domain satisfaction is influenced by its own genetic and environmental factors. But these factors are somewhat linked or correlated with each other. This is more in line with the bottom-up idea, where each domain is its own entity, but they are still connected, possibly through those top-down influences or shared genetic predispositions. They also found substantial genetic overlap between the satisfaction ratings for different domains. This means that genetic factors play a role not just in your overall satisfaction, but also in how satisfied you are with, say, your family and your health, and these genetic influences overlap. This supports the idea that there are some underlying genetic predispositions that influence satisfaction across multiple areas, again pointing to that top-down effect. This is where the findings become particularly compelling. When they looked at the actual link between general life satisfaction and domain satisfaction using the twin data, they found a strong genetic overlap. This means that a good portion of why you are satisfied with your life overall and satisfied with, say, your job, is often due to shared genes. This strongly suggests that there is a genetic component to whatever dispositional factors are driving that top-down process. However, they also found some environmental overlap, meaning shared experiences can also contribute to these links. To really get at potential causality, they used that fancy intra-pair difference score analysis with twins. Imagine taking two identical twins, and if one gets a big promotion and becomes much happier with their job, does their overall life satisfaction go up? Or if someone's overall life satisfaction suddenly dips, does it affect their satisfaction with their family? Their analysis showed that changes or differences in satisfaction within twin pairs could predict changes in other satisfaction areas, both for identical and non-identical twins. Crucially, for factors like friendship satisfaction, they found that the link between differences in friendship satisfaction and differences in general life satisfaction was actually stronger in non-identical twins than in identical twins. This difference hints at a genetic component influencing this causal-like link, suggesting it is not just about shared experiences or a general disposition. This implies that changes in satisfaction in certain areas might somewhat cause changes in overall satisfaction, and genetics plays a role in how this happens. So, what does it all mean? The study concludes that both top-down and bottom-up processes are at play in shaping our overall life satisfaction. The top-down influence is substantial, suggesting that our general disposition and genetic makeup play a big role in how satisfied we are across the board. This explains why satisfaction in different life domains is often correlated. But it is not just our genes or our general happiness. The bottom-up processes are also important. Satisfaction in specific areas of your life, like your job or your friendships, still uniquely contributes to your overall happiness. Even if you have a generally positive outlook, a really terrible job can still drag down your overall life satisfaction, and a wonderful relationship can boost it. Interestingly, they found that some domains seem to be more influenced by these top-down processes than others. For example, satisfaction with jobs and finances seem to reflect more of that general dispositional influence. This means that if you are generally satisfied with life, you are more likely to be satisfied with your job and finances, because of that overall positive outlook. On the other hand, friendship satisfaction seemed to be less driven by that overall disposition and more by its own specific factors, suggesting a stronger bottom-up influence there. This study is really strong because it used a clever combination of methods, especially those genetically informative designs. By looking at twins and siblings, they could disentangle genetic and environmental influences in a way that simple correlational studies can't. They also used multiple analytical approaches. which helps confirm their findings. However, no study is perfect. The researchers acknowledge that twin studies have assumptions that might not always be perfectly true in real life. For example, they assume that twins' environments are equally similar for identical and non-identical twins, which might not always be the case. Also, they measured people's feelings through self-reports, which means subjective feelings are being measured, not objective circumstances. Someone might report being happy with their finances, even if their income is objectively low, because their perception is what matters for life satisfaction. They also suggest that future research could combine these subjective reports with objective measures, like actual income or job performance, to get an even clearer picture. So, to wrap it all up, this study paints a nuanced picture. Your overall life satisfaction isn't just one thing. It is a combination. Your genes and your general disposition, the top-down influence, set a baseline and color how you see everything. But the specific good and bad things happening in different areas of your life. The bottom-up influences also play a crucial role. Understanding this balance can help us think about how to boost happiness, whether through broad strategies targeting our general outlook or more focused interventions in specific life areas. What do you think about these findings? Does it make sense that your overall happiness is a mix of your inherent disposition and the quality of different life domains? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful. Please hit that like button, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science made simple, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.